This is Paul with UW-Tacoma's Multimedia Lab. Welcome to our presentation of the Pocket Video School for Point-and-Shoot Cameras. This is an abbreviated version of the talk we give to our non-communication classes and is based upon the Pocket Pamphlet that accompanies student video gear when it is checked out. Now, while it says point-and-shoot, the following video tips are good for all levels of video production. And here's a list of topics and video tips we will be discussing. All UW-Tacoma students have access to free, first-come, first-served video equipment that is funded by your student technology fees. To get your gear, go to WG 108. It's directly located above Subway. Once your project is shot, bring it to the Multimedia Lab in CP 005 for assistance with your edit. That's right next to Phillip Hall at Cherry Park is this building right here. You can see the location of the two labs right here on the map. So we've got WG 108 and CP 005. Now, when you come to the Multimedia Lab, there's no need to worry because you'll have someone by your side giving you guidance through every step of your post-production. Okay, so here we go. The essential elements needed to produce your story. Here we have all the elements you should be thinking about while you're shooting or prior to shooting that you will need in your post-production. We're going to watch a simple, short example of a video project that was produced in Brazil with some simple flip point-and-shoot video cameras. And then we're going to, it's about 2 minutes long, and then we're going to reference back to it when we discuss each of these steps here. Now, at the bottom here, you can see this is a graphic of what your video edit will look similar to afterwards. These are above here, all of your video elements. Under here is your audio elements, and see how they kind of cut from one to the next like this through the beginning to the end of your video. So we're gonna see all of these elements in play in the video, and then we'll talk back when this is over.
All right, we're here with Flip Brazil in the municipal of Araçuaí, and this program was set up to help students from the University of Washington partner with people here in this region to make films around the broad questions of human rights, social justice, and environmental protection.
In this program, actually has three components. It has a Portuguese language component, it has a human rights component, and it has a media production component. And actually our intent is that all of these components overlap so that they are learning Portuguese and they're learning about social movements and human rights in Brazil, and that also through the media component they are able to search and interview and explore a particular issue in Brazil and produce a media production that overlaps with human rights.
So a lot of the students are doing different projects around issues of education,
so
issues of
kind of just see
communication major as well.
So I'm Sydney and I'm a CHID major and a Latin American Studies minor, and we're doing a project on graffiti. Our main focus is graffiti in Sao Paulo and its connection to human rights.
In Sao Paulo, it's everywhere. Like it's like a second skin for the city, essentially.
It was a lot more artistic, a lot more detail went into it. These faces that we painted so beautifully on walls. It was a graffiti I'd never seen before.
Okay, so there's the video. All right, so you can see we have this graphic one more time here, but now instead of seeing it blank, we've kind of gone and placed stills from the video that represent all the pieces that you would need to produce this piece. So we have this opening title graph. We have interview one, and you can see it's gray here. We got him on video, but we also have his audio that kind of runs underneath. And while his audio is going underneath of interview one, we cut to a shot of a classroom, we cut to a shot of meet and greet on the street. We go to this exterior school, but notice what happens here is as right after the exterior school shot comes on, the audio cuts over to interview 2. We don't see her yet because she will pop up here in just a moment once we see a few more shots, and then we'll cut to her. And as her audio continues, we see several other shots. So keep in mind all of these types of things while you're shooting that can all be put together while you're in your post. One last note here is in the very beginning we had this opening graphic that was created from a piece of footage with the live flute audio. Well, the flute audio went all the way underneath the audio of the interview and came back up at the end, and we saw the shot of the flute player in the classroom at the very end. Now, this wasn't the very end of the entire clip, but it was at the very end of the first segment. So this is visualized. These are the pieces going together. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about some of the tips that you might need. So we were kind of talking about shoot to edit. Think about it while you're shooting, how the pieces all go together. You're going to need some establishing shots. If this is a piece of fiction or documentary type work, you're going to need an establishing shot. And what is an establishing shot? It just is generally an opening shot that tells us where the action is taking place. If you're constantly jumping between interior location to interior location, you don't really get established where we are. In the video, there was one really good establishing shot of the outside of the school building, and then we cut inside and saw all the shots inside there. Again, if you're doing some type of a documentary type work or interview-based project, they're very crucial to your piece. And you can kind of think of them as the framework of your story. So if you can let your interviews, which this one did, tell the story and then use visuals to, as the show and tell portion of it. And in this case, this was our first clip of our first interview that we saw. Okay, so cutaways. As it says here, that they're usually shots related to the scene of subject that are used in the video to hide distracting cuts or to add more information. So they're often used in the edit to, cut down someone who talked for 5 minutes, and you want to cut them down and use the best parts and cut it down to like a 1 minute segment. You use some cutaways so that you don't see the jump cuts of their head jumping around in the frame. Here it was used to segue between this interview and this interview. She's talking just like that graphic. When she starts talking, her audio goes underneath as we see this cutaway to something that they're discussing, to this cutaway. And then we cut back to, and then somewhere in here, the audio changes of the narration of the interview to him, but then we pop up with him. So we use these to cut away the parts that we don't want or to use as segues. Okay, another way to use cutaways is to add information to what is happening in a scene. So if your main scene is of a painter in a park, then some of the cutaways examples would be other park users, maybe passerby standing there with their dog watching the artist, or even the approaching rain that's coming. So it's telling the story of, that this artist doesn't have much time left. Cut-ins are very similar to cutaways, except that they cut in closer to detail of a scene that within the activity or the action. So what in this flip video, I only saw really one, but it was at the very end where we see the painter working on the wall, and then we cut in and we're showing some more detail of the paint and the materials that the painters are using. Another cut in might have been a close up of the hand spray painting at the nozzle, or a close up of the painter's face. So, a cut-in of that painter example earlier in the park may have included close-ups of brush strokes, a look on the painter's face as they're thinking, or rinsing watercolor brushes, or maybe even a close-up of the subject that is being painted. Okay, so this frame covers quite a bit, and we're just going to go over kind of the visuals here and talk about, how to frame your shot from wide shots all the way down to extreme close-ups. Now, extreme wide shots at the very top generally show your character within a scene, and sometimes they're almost overwhelmed by the scene. They're placed in there. Now, this still from the video isn't quite as wide as this shot here. We should have probably been back another, 50 feet to get this extreme wide shot. But as you can see, as we're starting to move in, a wide shot is basically kind of a head to toe. Again, this frame doesn't quite do it because the original video didn't allow it. But basically think head to toe in wide shot. Medium shots, waist up, close-ups, kind of your general portrait shot, and extreme close-ups of, very close to the detail. You want to mix these shots up. If you shoot somebody, for instance, the graffiti artist, in a wide shot, of them working on the wall, you can cut it in later on with some close-ups or a medium shot. If everything is in the same framing and wide, it's very hard to cut, and it's actually very boring. So just some of the things that we talk about here on the side is change camera framing and alter your perspectives. Get down on a knee, stand on a ladder, swing to the left, swing to the right. Take each shot multiple ways. If you have control of your set or of your surroundings, it's okay. Back it up, do it again. Shoot it from a different angle. Shoot it this way or that way. Let's see, frame with your foreground and your background in mind. That's just basically thinking, keep an eye on what's behind you. What's behind your action? Does it add to the scene? Does it distract from the scene? And try to balance your composition left and right, and front and background, so that it's not visually out of balance. So if you've had any photography experience, you'll notice that this is the rule of thirds, framing composition. So the idea is that if you were to take your photo, or look through your camera and your viewfinder, and slap the Brady Bunch type of grid on your framing, that the points of interest will occur at these access points between your thirds on your overlay. So here the baby's not well positioned. She's dead center. We all see this in a lot of the pictures we take. But if you simply were to zoom in or step forward a little closer, put your baby's eyes or face right on this upper access point, and they actually balance the frame between the left and the right sides with the bear on the other side. So try to put the eyes of your actors and characters in the top access point of your thirds, as well as maybe give your subject a little bit of room on top. So here's some more examples. The bird's in this access point in the top left here. Same with this gentleman, his eyes right on it. And now the two bottom ones are a little more interesting because let's see, I think I actually highlight that. There it is. The girl on the rock is pretty much hitting 3 out of the 4 access points, and she's just kind of in this L shape that's nicely kind of balancing it out left to right, top to bottom. And the boat here is being balanced out by the island up here. So they're roughly on the rule of third access grids, and foreground here is being nicely balanced with depth and what's in the background. So we talked about this just briefly, nose room and headroom. Headroom is the idea that you don't put your subject dead center in the frame. Look at all that empty negative space up there. Nothing's happening. Move them up towards the top of the frame. Give them an inch or so, or just a little bit of gap between the top of their head and their framing. And nose room basically is the idea that if somebody's looking towards one side of the frame, you leave the side that they're looking at empty and put them a little bit more on the third axis right here. Now this one would be incorrect because while they put them on the third axis, they're putting them on the same side of the frame that they're looking out of. So it kind of makes the frame a little bit unbalanced. Okay, so planning your shoot. Think of your story that you want to tell before recording, and make a bullet list of all the shots that you need to get before you leave your location. Yeah, if you're shooting a farm, your list will be your list will be 1, chickens; 2, establishing shot with barn; 3, interview with farmer; 4, cows. The example below here, an establishing shot of a girl. Where this is establishing where she is. She walks into the shot. We see a close-up of her face, and she starts to look around. The next shot I would want to get is she looks down to her watch. Close-up of the watch, so we see what she's looking at. Medium shot of her, from the waist up, looking up from the watch, and she's looking around again, and then etc. All these things that you want to get before you leave. You don't want to forget that one close-up or the cutaway to the thing that she's looking at. you'd have to go all the way back and get that shot again. Plan your shoot. This one's pretty simple, but we see this all the time. Footage comes back looking like, witness protection. This is caused oftentimes by people just, if they're outside, putting the subject with the sun at their back, especially if it's low morning or afternoon sun, and then the camera exposes all the light and closes the iris down and doesn't allow so much light in, and actually darkens your subject's face. It happens often when you put somebody in front of a window too. So the easy solution to that is, if you're trying to use the window light, is to just turn the subject to the side. Use the window light on the side to use that as your main key light. We haven't talked about this, but use your headphones. Bring some headphones. Check your camera. Check your audio when you get onto location. Sometimes that air conditioner or that street noise can ruin your shot, or they're just as loud as your subject who's talking, and it's really hard to distinguish your subject between the background noise. You can't separate the background noise from your subject. You have to move to a quieter location. So using headphones is essential to making sure that you have not only that you can hear your subject, but they are clear. And also, this zip it when you shoot. Don't talk over your footage when you're shooting. Just let the natural sounds. You can ruin footage. That you might want that audio of the forest, making its natural sounds. But if you're talking over it in the background because you think, I'm just going to let it run for a minute and I don't need, but you don't have that natural sound, you can't use it. Don't talk over it. If you're doing interviews, just nod a lot, smile a lot, use a lot of hand gestures, exaggerated gestures to give feedback to your interviews. But don't say uh-huhs, okays, and greats. Don't talk over your interview because you can't cut that out later. This one's really crucial, and a lot of students don't do this. Hit that record button. Let it run 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. Then yell action. Let the action occur. Yell cut. Let it run another 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then hit stop. You really need a little bit of pre-roll and post-roll on your footage for editing. If you want to do a cross dissolve or a fade or anything else, any other transitions, you really need to have a couple seconds of footage before that first syllable that's uttered or before that first movement in that action that you want. And then again, this is just a reminder to use your headphones and check out a microphone if you can. If they don't, some of the equipment is limited. They don't have as many as others. So it'll be first come, first served. But if you have any questions about any of the gear and you don't know how to use it, or you have any questions, just ask the front desk in the media checkout desk and have them demonstrate how to use the equipment. Let's see. This is mostly for point and shoot cameras, but cell phones and point and shoot cams don't have image stabilization in them, so that they not only do they move a bit, but they have that vibration kind of jittery look to them. That can easily be fixed by using a tripod. If you don't use a tripod, you can always. It's really a good idea to widen your feet a bit, rotate from your hips, not from your feet. Lean up against the wall, or squat down and get on a knee and put your elbow down on your knee. Basically, the idea is you're trying to brace yourself into a stabilized shot. It's okay if it looks handheld, but we don't want that jittery, caffeinated look, that a lot of these point and shoots and cell phones give us. Okay, so that's really pretty much it. I also often tell students another great place for as a resource is to go to Vimeo.com, and they have a video school with tons of video tips that they're always adding to it. So this Vimeo.com/video school is a pretty cool place to go and learn more about video making and storytelling. So once again, you're going to go to WG 108 right above Subway and get your video gear at the media equipment checkout. And then when you're all finished, bring your camera and your footage down to Cherry Park 005. And I forgot to tell you, but that's right behind Indochine on Pacific Avenue, down on the ground floor, 005. And that's where you're going to find somebody to walk you through all the steps for your post-production. So again, this is Paul with UW-Tacoma's Multimedia Lab, and thanks for watching the Pocket Video School for point-and-shoot cameras.